Welcome back. It's Niche, and we're back with another installment, of course, of Laughing and Crying. We have a good show today. I have someone in the building once again, and it's Dre. Say hello to the people.
Hey, people.
That's right, Dre's back, and we're doing an episode that I'm excited about, he's excited about. We're going to break some myths. Up on the show today, we're actually going to do another round of One Gotta Go, because I had fun with it last week. And then we're going to get into what does and doesn't make a good marriage. So it's going to be exciting. So here we go. How have you been, Dre?
I've been doing all right. A long weekend.
What's new? What is like something that, how about this? How about we do High-Low Buffalo? So we do something called High-Low Buffalo, where your high, of course, is the thing that was the best part about your day. Your low, of course, the worst thing about your day. And something that surprised you today.
High-Low Buffalo. High was just enjoying the weekend, being out of town. With friends and family. That was great. The low was, knowing that I had to come back and all the fun was over. Buffalo, actually, I hurt my leg earlier in the week, but it seems to have cleared up now, so I'm happy about that. Kind of shocked because I thought I would be down for a while.
Yeah, that's cool. For me, high, probably same thing. Good little vacay. Low, just probably that the weekend is over, because sometimes, it just feels like a 15-minute break. It's like, oh yeah, it's Friday, and then all of a sudden it's Sunday again. I can't stand that. And then Buffalo is Bling Empire is back for the second season. And, not telling you to go watch it, not telling you not to, but it's so great. And if you like reality TV shows about rich people, like, you'll love Bling Empire. So, and that's not even a plug. I wish they were sponsoring me, but they're not. So, go watch some dumb TV, relax. Okay. So we're going to start off with One Gotta Go. And this week's One Gotta Go is about food.
Yeah.
Because I love food, Dre loves food.
Everybody loves food.
But we're going to try to figure out which food needs to go. So we have up on the docket Mexican food, soul food, Chinese food, and Caribbean food. Okay? And if you're not familiar with the game One Gotta Go, it's in the name. One Gotta Go. And with it goes everything. So everything that's associated with that cuisine and the way that they make it is gone. So you can have white rice, but you can't have Mexican rice or rice and peas if you get rid of Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. We're just going to talk this out. Let's talk about what has to stay. What has to stay for you, Dre, off top?
What has to stay off top? Say Caribbean food.
Tell me why.
Why'd you laugh?
I just want to know your reason.
Caribbean food, it's kind of exotic. It's got a lot of flavor, and it's like a special flavor. It's not something that you would eat every day. It's kind of like it's like a delicacy to actually have it. So okay. that's like it's important. It's not very common to get good Caribbean food. So when it's good, you gotta keep that around.
Okay. For me, what has to stay is probably soul food, because I don't think I could ever get rid of fried chicken. Or, like, I know Caribbean food has their own way of doing mac and cheese, but there's a way that soul food does mac and cheese, and I just, like, couldn't get rid of that, like, ever. Collard greens.
Fair enough. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So for you, Caribbean stays. For me, soul food stays. Okay, what's the next one that stays?
Chinese food.
Chinese food.
Everybody knows that.
Why?
General Tso's, orange chicken, boneless spare ribs, sesame chicken, egg foo young. Like what? Everybody.
Are you gonna name
that.
the whole menu? Do you know the numbers that go next to them?
Yeah, 7, 6, 14, 32 lunch combo.
I cannot.
Oh my bad.
Spring rolls. And all I'm thinking about is Thai food, which is not Chinese food. But lo mein, yeah, every once in a while you gotta have a fried rice. And if Chinese food goes, the Chinese food in the mall goes, and you gotta have that every once in a while.
That bourbon chicken.
That MSG loaded.
Right, that bourbon chicken and them dumplings. All right.
What dumplings?
Steamed dumplings. If you don't know, dim sum.
Dim sum.
If you know, you know.
Okay, so I would agree. Chinese food's next. Wait, will I agree? No, I'm actually not gonna agree. I think for me, next is Caribbean. So for me, for Dre is Caribbean and Chinese. For me, is soul food and Caribbean. And I say Caribbean because oxtails, jerk chicken,
Aki, curry goat.
I don't eat curry goat, and I don't eat goat, so stop. Sorry for all my Caribbean people out there who think goat is the greatest. Stop. I'm sorry.
You get
so
one
my
spoonful.
Audience, I'm sorry. But that gravy, where you can put that gravy on anything and eat, Caribbean stays. Point blank. And Caribbean is like the soul food of the Caribbean anyway, so I'm just being kind of consistent right now.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a heritage.
All right, Jay, out of Mexican food and soul food, which gotta go?
Which gotta go?
Mm-hmm.
As Mexican as I am, Mexican food gotta go.
What? Why Mexican American too?
Yeah, Mexican American gotta go.
Tell me why.
It's just a taco. Although tacos are slamming, sometimes the spices have to go, and other Latino cultures have very good flavored food. Costa Rican, Ecuadorian, Chilean, Peruvian. That's good, but Mexican American is too much American in that Mexican. It ain't all that. Beans and rice, little lettuce on the side. All we want is Taco Tuesday for beer and tacos.
See, and I feel the same kind of way, because on my end, I feel like Chinese food gotta go. And I only say that, well, maybe because I say that because I live in the South now. We
almost got divorced, y'all.
I feel like I feel like I actually favor Thai food a little bit more, nowadays. I don't know. I feel like the more I grow up, the more I realize Chinese food is a quarter size piece of chicken with about a baseball size worth of breading around it.
That's fried chicken.
No.
You know what? If you don't like Chinese food, black card revoked. We all like Chinese food.
I'm trying to figure out, because I'm like, Mexican food is good.
Y'all please chime in with me.
You know what? I can't leave queso. You know what?
That's mac and cheese sauce, y'all. That's it. That's all that is. With a jalapeno in it. We know that. Every black struggle meal. Mom Dukes done put some green peppers and onions in that mac and cheese with that leftover chicken. Don't act like you don't front like you don't know.
I love a taco.
Cornbread. Egg roll.
Because I will get spring rolls from Thai. I'll get noodles from Thai.
Jamaican beef patty. You don't need a taco? You good right there.
I don't know. The Chinese food I grew up on in the North was way better. So maybe if I was still eating that, I would feel differently.
For sure.
But right now,
for sure.
Yeah, Chinese food gotta go. It's not hitting on nothing.
Wow.
I go long periods of time without eating it anyway.
Wow.
Are you done? Are you done? Wow. All right, so Chinese food gotta go and Mexican food gotta go.
Yeah. Adios, amigo.
Team
Adios, amigo.
Awesome. Well, we got through that. Okay, good job. I want to know what you guys think though too. So when you guys leave your comments, tell me which one has to go: Mexican soul food, Chinese food, or Caribbean food.
Yeah, chime in, y'all, for real.
Yeah,
we gotta get to the bottom of this. You gotta stop it at the root. At the roots.
How about this? You guys tell me either out of Mexican and Chinese food, which one's gotta go. So that's the one we don't agree on. Okay, so we got a conversation to have that I'm super excited about, and I'm gonna tell you why. One of the things that I really want to talk about on this podcast is some stuff that I encountered after being married. I I think I just wanted to talk about it because I wanted to get it out there in the open that, man, I was fooled a lot. There's a lot of myths out here.
Yeah. It's a lot of myths.
It's a lot of myths out here about marriage. And not even just about marriage, about good marriage. You know what I mean? And so I walked into marriage. I don't know about you, Dre, but I walked into marriage thinking that a lot of stuff was true that just really, really isn't. And I think it's put me at a place trying to live out these myths. And, you know, friends who maybe some of these things did coincidentally work out in their marriage, or some friends who are single who are like, I know this is how it is. I know this is how it is. And I'm like, it's not how it is. Okay, so one really cool thing that I wanted to do was do a 2-part podcast. So it's going to be 2 different podcasts. And on one of the podcasts, I'm going to do myths about being single. And I'm going to have a couple friends on there to help me about that. And then today we're doing 10 myths about good marriage. And so let's get into it.
Just 10?
But yeah, 10 myths about good marriage. And we're just going to jump into it and just start the conversation out because I want to know what Dre thinks about some of these myths. Okay, so the first one is for a good marriage. People say, I hear this all the time, you have to be compatible. If you don't get along easily with your partner, your marriage isn't going to be successful.
It's a lie, straight up from the pits, y'all. It's a lie. No, compatibility helps. But reality is maturity is the thing. You can have someone that you're not compatible with, but if they're willing to mature and grow and maybe see their immature ways or stubbornness, and they take initiative and take accountability to actually put in the effort to grow in these areas, you'll find out that compatibility is the last thing that falls in place.
You got your Enneagrams, you got your zodiac signs, you got your middle child versus old child, all of the things. There's so many couples that I've met where those things don't add up the way that you think they're supposed to add up. They work really hard at their marriage. And even Dre and I, we're, a Pisces and a Gemini. And according to the zodiacs, they're not supposed to go well together. We have a completely different way of thinking. And our marriage has been difficult because of that. I think it's been so rewarding working towards that commonality and challenge each other along the way. I think it brought the most growth within us. If I had met somebody who was like me, it would have been mad fun. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that all the ways in which I've been able to change, it would never have been challenged.
Compatibility is another word for comfort. That's all that is.
Right, and I think it's super interesting that you say that because someone told me, or I read this a while back, and it says that compatibility actually is being able to say, you're someone that I don't need to change much, and I'm someone for you that you don't need to change much.
Yeah.
I look at that and I listen to that and I'm just like, so there's just 2 people who just don't really want to change. And so they're happy.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to come off like compatibility is bad. I just want to emphasize the point that compatibility gives you a ground on which you agree. Now, you can look at that in the perspective and say, okay, if we agree, that's so good. We're on the same page. We're not going to argue. But that means you agree on the good stuff and you don't agree on your trauma. You agree on your negative behaviors. You're in agreement. Like, that's not the best thing. And so there's work there to be done. But sometimes that work takes more time to kind of bubble up to the surface when you're in that much in agreement.
Like Pastor Cal said, marriage ain't for punks. That's the Bible. That's the book.
No matter how compatible you are, if you think somehow compatibility takes you out of that role or responsibility of having to do work, it's a lie. Okay, let's do myth number 2.
All right, myth number 2. Let's get it. Let's go.
Okay, so myth number 2 is cheating, infidelity, and lying are the only things that lead to divorce.
Ooh, not true. Not true. They are strong, major cases, but really discontentment is what leads to divorce. Inability to resolve conflict leads to divorce. Lack of communication, lack of affection, or vulnerability are the things that lead to divorce. Divorce can come on many different avenues, but the topics here, cheating, infidelity, all these things definitely give that wagon a push. But no, the seeds start with how you perceive a situation, how you respond to a situation, what your mind is telling you versus what your emotions tell you. Ooh, I think I talked to myself. I felt it, so it's real.
Yeah, I think it's a good point when you're talking about the seed, because I have some things I thought about. Like, there's this book.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
No.
Okay,
stop. It's actually by Gottman. It's called The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work. And that book explains actually like the 4 horsemen of divorce, which are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So all 4 of those things that don't have, I won't say don't have anything to do, but they're not cheating, they're not infidelity, they're not having a family across town. It's not, oh, he left me and walked out, never came back. It's how criticism can build up, how contempt can build up, how defensiveness can build up, and stonewalling. Stonewalling is just like pretending you don't hear somebody, shutting them out, being quiet, all that kind of stuff.
The silent treatment.
Basically, the silent treatment, how all of those things literally are indicators that your divorce is on its way. Allowing resentment to build, allowing yourself to feel like your partner owes you something that they can never pay back. All of that kind of stuff, like refusing to connect, choosing to be mad, and how that can lead to resentment. Or a big one, and a lot of people, I mean, you see older people nowadays getting divorced with all the time, is when one partner decides that they know everything else about the other partner, so there's nothing more to learn. And so as their partner evolves, they almost grow apart because you decide, oh, I know her, I know him. And as they're evolving, you're not asking any questions. You're not trying to learn or be a student of your spouse. And then you end up being like, who are you?
Yeah, complacency.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think it just frustrates me. Does it frustrate you? I won't even say frustrate you, but did it confuse you? Like when you got into marriage and you realized, like, man, it's not just cheating. It's not just infidelity and lying and stuff that lead to divorce. Like, there's other things that drove you to that, like, thought process.
I don't think I was shocked because I understood. I'm a Pisces, so I know a lot about emotions, and like you said, those joints drive the car real good. But no, being able to tap into my emotions like that, I understood there are a bunch of different avenues that can lead to divorce. If I think I'm unhappy or think I'm not treated well, my mind thinks it, my eyes start to see what my mind thinks, and then my actions start to reflect that. And it could be simple as, this person don't care about me, and they brought food home but didn't bring you something, but you realize you ate earlier and you told them you ate earlier, so why do you feel entitled, like, oh yeah, why didn't you bring me food? But now you think they're unloving, don't know how to communicate, never was considerate, all these things. Saying the word never is usually a good indicator of a negative direction.
I just always thought that was pretty cool. Not cool in the sense of divorce is cool, but cool that there is indicators. And, I think it's just such a myth that, cheating is the only red flag. It's really, really not.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one is a marriage partnership should be 50-50. Definitely wrong.
What? 50-50? Since when? But, 50-50 can't be, because you're not a machine. You can't run on 100 all the time, nor can your spouse. Realities of life play into these factors. Health situations, whether you sick, a healthy marriage is I pick up where you slack because you pick up where I slack. And sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30, 80-20.
90-10 at times.
And sometimes, God forbid, but sometimes even possible, it may be 100.
Yeah,
you never know what could happen. Tragedy could strike. And then what do?
I think, and those are definitely like the extreme cases, but I think even in the day-to-day, like looking for 50-50 is unobtainable. Even in those moments, like stepping back, big picture, we can look at that stuff so logically and be like, oh yeah, well, if I had a busy week at work, my husband has a busy week, of course I'm going to take care of everything. But when you're knee deep in it, you're like, he knew he could do this. He knew he could have picked up the thing. He knew he could have took care of that. He knew he could have taken the baby from me. And I just think sometimes that people outside of marriage, and sometimes people in it, think that marriage is supposed to be 50-50. And a lot of times one partner is going to be giving more energy and effort than the other. But I think the sign of a good marriage is that it shifts from one partner to the next. It shouldn't always be the same partner giving more than 50.
Marriage is the ultimate example of selflessness and the ultimate sacrifice of your selfishness.
Yeah.
You kill your selfishness and you realize, now you become servants one to the other. But it still works out. If you serve each other, the marriage can thrive. There you go.
Don't let anybody lie to you. Don't let anybody tell you that. Right. Don't let anybody convince you to get married because you feel like it's a good business deal. Like, marriage is not a business deal. And if it is a good business deal, it's probably a terrible marriage.
Don't nobody owe you nothing. Not my fault. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so number 4. What we at, 4?
Yeah, 4. We got 6 more.
Anyway, that couples therapy is only for when you have a problem or your marriage is broken. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. BS.
You don't need any life insurance when you plan on dying. You know what I'm saying? Man. And go to therapy only if you have problems. No, man. Like, it's a lot of things you could do just because. But the reality is, being proactive in any situation is always better than being reactive.
Yeah,
I think therapy is a proactive step in a very accountable way of saying when situations do come that we can't navigate, this can avoid the 4 horsemen if you can apply it in time.
Yeah.
Use some wisdom, yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
You don't know what you're getting into. even though you think you are. You don't know.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, couples therapy is a way for you to be challenged in a way that you would not challenge yourself. You would never you're never going to ask yourself the questions that actually are going to challenge you. Because why would we're human, we're not going to do that. We're going to take the easiest route, the most efficient path. And so if you find a therapist that you and your spouse trust, or you and your boy, it don't even have to be your spouse. It could be your boyfriend. But if we're talking about marriage, you find somebody that you guys trust who will learn you, who will challenge you in the ways that you need to be challenged, and who will be rooting for the marriage. And it gives you tools of coping and communicating so that you can ward off bad habits. And so why pass that up? It's such a great tool to have in your arsenal when you're married.
Yeah, couples counseling is that special bullet in the gun. Shot everything else. Try this one.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a sign that your marriage is over by any means. It is actually a sign that your marriage is probably thriving more than other marriages out there. Honest to God, because you're getting ahead of it. And I also want to put out there that when you go to couples therapy, you don't have to go every day or every week. Like, Dre and I go every other week. And there are some couples out there who only go once a month or once a quarter. So if you're feeling like our marriage is kind of good, like, I don't know, still go, because now you have that relationship that you're kind of
nurturing the relationship.
Yeah, you're nurturing it. And so that when you do need it, when you do have that big, huge blow up conflict, when you do need to go because you need a third party, it's not going to be awkward trying to find some new therapist. Okay. So big number 5.
Number 5 is still alive.
Okay, so number 5, and I realized in marriage that's just not true, is that fighting is a sign of a bad marriage. Whatever you want to call it. Some people call it fighting. Some people call it conflict. Some people call it disagreement. Whatever you call it.
Yeah. As long as it's not fist fighting.
Yeah, we're not talking about physical. We're not talking about physical or emotional abuse or anything like that.
When you jab now.
But I mean, getting into it, not agreeing.
Yeah. It's a sign that you guys actually communicate. As crazy as that sounds, you guys communicate. It's just sometimes you can have very strong opinions, and until you learn how to de-escalate the conversations, the arguments, the disagreements, and come to what we call compromise, it may appear to other people as a fight. And it may even come off as like a very intense that you may maybe in disagreement with. But once you calm down and actually talk it out with maturity, you understand that fighting or arguments in a marriage is really just a misunderstanding or a miscommunication that can all be resolved.
Or being hungry, or being sleepy or not getting your way and being mad about it,
or just having that mindset of
being stubborn,
thinking you deserve more than the reality.
Yeah. Dre and I, we fought. I mean, not physically, but like we just couldn't go very long without disagreeing. And that's, like I said in the other, with the compatibility, we were not naturally, we understand each other's brains. And so we always were like, you should think like me. Why don't you think like me? And that was literally the basis of all of our arguments. And people would tell us, oh, y'all are fighting? Y'all should be fighting this much. And some of our fights, we were not kind. There were plenty of times where I asked my therapist, I'm like, why are we doing this? All we do is fight. All we do is argue. And our therapist was like, y'all are both stubborn. You're both stubborn. You both want to be right. There's nothing wrong with your marriage. You just have to get over yourselves. And I'm just here to listen and collect this check, basically. And so, and I would ask him for real, like, what is going on with us? And he's like, nothing except that you guys both don't want to do right. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Thank you for that.
Pretty much.
Won't say your name to protect the innocent, you know.
Shout out to my therapist.
Here's one. See how you feel about this one.
Okay.
Don't go to bed mad.
Ooh.
It's kind of controversial.
Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. No, you don't want to go to bed angry or like building resentment, but sometimes you do need a night apart. Sometimes it ain't a bad idea to sleep on the couch and sleep it over. One or two things happen. Either when you wake up in the morning, your back hurting, you realize it's easier to come to a compromise and share that bed, or you just took a day apart and you realize, hey, you're not as mad as you really thought you were. Or maybe they feel bad and realize that they were wrong, and you wake up and they come back and apologize.
Yeah, and some people, it's okay for them to sleep on the couch. Some people, they're like, nah, that makes me feel abandoned, or that doesn't work here. And you do it, works for your marriage. But I think in reality, a timeout is what Dre's, referring to. Like, we learned, let me stop lying. We didn't learn. We were forced into coming to terms with the fact that we can't argue when we're tired. We can't argue late at night. And we would do that when I tell you all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
All the time. I wake up early and go to work late all day.
Oh, I mean,
I ain't got it in me. Say that argument for later.
It was like we would literally stay up arguing, fall asleep arguing, wake up, be getting ready for work arguing. It was bad, like, because half the argument was because we was tired, and now we argued about what we said when we were tired. I understand the concept and the premise of don't go to bed mad. Don't go to bed mad without an intention of addressing the issue at all.
For sure.
Go to bed understanding that it's not the right time to address the issue. And you need to address this issue when you guys are all in your sober, rested mind.
Sometimes a good nap is what you need to resolve it. In your sleep, the Lord will deal with you. You may wake up and be like, you know what, I was wrong. You know what I mean? It really wasn't that serious.
It really, really wasn't that serious.
Maybe I'll have the broccoli. I don't need the fries.
Okay. This is one that I feel like I hear from single people more than anything else. And I used to say when I was single, so I can't even like be mad at anybody for it. But being married will advance you financially, / I guess being married means you're fully supported.
No, because you marry people's debt, people's trauma, people's bad life skills, horrible decisions, health, hygiene, finances, those three
their
right
injuries,
there.
Their disabilities,
Their capabilities that make them more awesome than the average Joe, their uniqueness, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Shoot.
Anyway.
But no, it sounds good in theory because you think life is like Monopoly. You think it's like, oh, look, I picked up this new property. Now it's double income. No, you just have two people living their lives with the same money they had because you thought you had the money I had. I thought I had the money you had.
I think the sentiment is you are looking for somebody to support you, and your spouse or the partner that you're with who want to marry is probably looking for somebody to help support them too.
$50 is $25 when you got someone else, and it really ain't that. When you married, because I gotta watch my cholesterol now. I gotta watch you eat the life I want. Because I just gotta be alive a little longer now.
But the reality is, when you find the person you want to be with, they might not have a house. True. You might be like, oh, I'm staying in this apartment because my man's gonna have a house. They might not have a house. They might not want the vacation home you want to buy. They may not care about taking care of your dog.
Yeah. I don't want to do it. Oh,
and medical debt is real.
I don't know. That might have been a jab right there. I don't know. Y'all, hold on, world. No.
Medical debt is real. Credit card debt is real. School loan debt is real. So I don't care what kind of job they have. If they have 6 figures of school loan debt,
right? Those school loans, you better learn how to get out of debt.
It's a myth. The whole side of the being fully supported, that is the biggest myth ever. And I'm coming for the women. I'm sorry. Usually I don't do this men versus women thing, but. Are you done?
I got me a good one.
Are you done? Usually I don't do the men versus women thing, but I gotta come for the women on this one because we're like, oh man, I get sick and tired of cleaning the toilet and taking the trash out, and I just want to have to wash the dishes, or I want him to wash the dishes. And I'm like, you might not get that man. Your man might be a pretty boy who don't want to touch trash, and now you end up taking it because he'll let it sit there and stink. Like, you might have a man that has ADHD and forgets to put the trash can on the street every single week, and then you end up doing it.
You seen it? No.
You might have a man who's like, I ain't touching the toilet, please. And what you gonna say? No, I ain't doing it because that's why I got married. Like, we can't do that.
It's a team effort, y'all.
Yeah.
It's a straight up team effort. You're going to have to pick up the slack. Going back to the other myth, it ain't 50-50,
It ain't
yo.
50-50.
It's a team effort. Together, everyone achieves more. It's a team of two.
And ladies, unless your man has been married before and a woman has already done the work, there is a learning curve to teaching them how to do things. We just know how to take care of stuff. Like, it's built within us. Like, it was made within us. We know how to nurture things. And part of that nurturing is, like, our homes. We buy curtains. We buy duvets. We buy baskets that sit on the back of our toilets. Men don't do that. And I don't want to generalize because some men might do that. And, hey, keep doing it. Your woman's going to love it. Not all, and I won't generalize. Not all women, maybe. But for a lot of women that I know, and for me, myself, Nisha, is that way. And so you can't expect a man to just come in and be like, oh hon, I know exactly how you want to wipe the counters, I know exactly how you want to sweep the floor. It's not going to feel like help. It's going to feel like a burden at first, period. Because now you're not, because before you didn't drop crumbs on the floor, so you only had to sweep once a week. Now you're sweeping every day because he don't know how to not. You know what I'm saying? Or vice versa, man. Maybe you were the clean freak. You had to sweep once a week. Now she over here walking through the house eating chips. You know what I'm saying?
In the bed.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Oh, my fault. Yeah, my fault. Yeah.
Here we go.
Finna get straight out here on question 8. Yeah,
sex should be easy for marriage to work. If your marriage is good, sex should be easy. Sex should just come.
Nah. You want it to be that way. You want it to be that way. You get more sex cohabitating or prior to marriage. But the reality is the sex in marriage is more meaningful, and it does hold a little more weight.
Why do you feel like it's more meaningful in marriage?
Because when there's no strings attached, it's just you were horny. That's probably 99% of it. But in marriage, you learn, like, most of the time for your wife, it's tied to her emotions. She's giving, she's sacrificing, she trying for you, she giving you the thing. It's legit. And vice versa for the male too. When he start listening to where you want it, you kind of think, who is this? It's usually great. I would hope so.
Now I will say, on the married versus not married kind of plane of it, I don't think that you have to necessarily be married for somebody to care about your needs. However, I do believe, and this is just my opinion, again, me, myself, Nisha, I believe that when you legally sign yourself to someone and you make that full commitment, It's almost like if you're in a room with a bunch of doors and there's one door left that's unlocked. Signing that marriage decree locks that last door. And it's hard to get out. And so I think when you're in that situation, it does end up being more meaningful. But I also think when that commitment is stronger, sometimes it's easier to get lazy.
Fatigue of life, fatigue of work. Yeah.
And I don't want none. And this pillow wall is about to go up.
And I'm going to turn my back.
And I'm going to make my body like a C.
And I just want the covers all to myself. And sometimes a man needs his own space. How is it that your woman is a half your size, but when she get in that mattress, you 2/3 of your real self. You sleeping on the slither. Your kneecaps, your toes,
Stop.
your nips hanging off the bed, and she just happy as can be. How'd you sleep?
You just talking out.
Scoliosis.
Here's another point, though. You don't always know how your ability to have sex will change. You don't know how your sex drive will change. And there's moments in a woman's menstrual cycle that changes that. For men, as they get older, their sex drive lowers. Sometimes men have issues with being able to get started.
I need that push start.
Are you done? So, like, the reality is, like, people are always like, the sex better get. If I'm getting married, sex, it's a service. You have to make your sex life what it is. Another plug, Goop. If you have not watched Goop on Netflix, I don't even know if that's the full name of the show, but if you type in GOOP, it has Gwyneth Paltrow. Goop with Gwyneth Paltrow on Netflix. It helps you to understand what is your sexual personality type. They have like the kinky, the sensual, the energetic, the
BDSM.
No. Anyways, just like when you're committed to that person, you have to be committed to not, of course, changing partners like you could do when you were single, but I mean, if, you know, I'm talking about like a committed monogamous marriage. You can't just change your partner. You also have to be able to evolve. So yeah, sex isn't easy in marriage, and it doesn't have to be easy for marriage to work.
True.
All right, next one. You're not lonely, or you can't be lonely.
Yeah, you can. In marriage, you can be lonely because it's just like in relationships and friendships, in your job, in your life. Not only just like on the case of like having like depression or anxiety. Literally, you could want to communicate with your spouse, significant other, and they may not know how to validate you back. That's a lonely feeling when you feel like your words may fall on deaf ears.
So when vulnerability is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can feel lonely in a marriage. Just because someone's physically there doesn't mean that they're emotionally, mentally, sexually. Some couples aren't very verbal in communication of love and affection. So it's like, hey, you said you love me on our marriage day, and it has to be a special event that they get a I love you or flowers or, you know, a helping hand in the day that communicated to them like, hey, I care about you and I wanted you to be able to relax, you know?
Yeah. And I also think, you know, on the flip side of that as well is sometimes loneliness could be real and sometimes loneliness could be in your mind. And so loneliness is a feeling. Maybe I felt lonely before I even met you, and that's something I need to go to therapy and talk about and not put it on you. So I think the reality is, especially even before you get married, if you felt lonely outside of marriage, it's not going to fix it. Marriage only amplifies what's already there.
Everything.
Yeah, so if you had it already there, it's not going to go away. If you feel lonely, ladies, gentlemen, all of the above, if you feel lonely in your marriage, talk to your spouse. Do your love language.
Practice vulnerability.
Do your love language quiz. I know with me and Dre, like, his love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. So when Dre gets physical touch and words of affirmation, he's good. He can just be in another room and be like, aren't we the best couple ever, and just hanging out. And my love language is quality time, and I'm literally constantly tapping him on the shoulder like, okay, so what about quality time? Okay, so what about quality time? And he's like, leave me alone. And I'm like, no, but what about quality time?
I saw you when I walked in the house. You know I'm in the house. Quality time.
Right. Incorrect. But to that end, I felt very lonely for a long time when I didn't address that, because he didn't even realize that what he was doing was perpetuating this or instigating this lonely feeling inside of me. And then, I had to deal with it as well. I had to communicate. So that's just that on that. You can feel lonely. You can feel rejected. You can feel all of that stuff within marriage. It's
still be a good marriage.
Right. Okay, number 10. Last
10. We made it, y'all. Let's go.
Okay, so the last one is, and this one's kind of more of an abstract one. It's just the idea that your husband or wife should ... So my husband or wife should know how to express their emotion. My husband or wife should have addressed all their trauma. I shouldn't have to build them up. They should already be where they need to be. All of those things.
Like I told you, don't nobody owe you nothing. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, and didn't. So now what? Look at us. We gonna sit here look stupid at each other. Sometimes,
anyway, how about you address the people kindly?
Hey, nah. In all seriousness, sometimes it's as simple as like understanding, like we're here to help each other, to grow each other, to prune each other of the things that don't make us with the best of quality. And love should be like, hey, if my wife isn't good with finances, let me show her, and show her with love, not you spending too much money and I'm gonna give you an allowance. We all grow and we all get our own checks.
Yeah, grace. Unless it's agreed upon allowance, because that's a real thing. Shout out Ro Thomas, Wealthy-esque. Anyway, a lot of this stuff, is stuff that is built over time. And so if you're waiting around for that perfect person that they should be making 6 figures, I don't know why they're still crying about what happened to them when they were 2. Like, all of these things, like, that's your job as a spouse. I think there are ways in which you're allowed to have boundaries. There are ways in which you're allowed to have standards for yourself. The reality is there's a lot of things that we kind of put on people because maybe that's the thing that we got figured out. Like, maybe I got figured out how to address my trauma, but maybe you meet somebody and they never had that opportunity. So having these ideas that your spouse should A, B, C, D, or E is destructive.
We are all the sum of the events in our lives. And sometimes maybe they don't know how to because maybe they never had the example. So just because you were raised or brought up in a certain environment doesn't mean it's the same. Right. I know plenty of men who don't know how to change a tire, but if you teach them and show them, they will be more than willing, and they take pride in it, and they'll be, hey, I change your oil all the time.
Right.
I'm one of those guys.
Oh, Lord.
I learned how to change oil, and now I change your oil. Let me say that $50.
And let me be clear, when we're talking about building your spouse and supporting them and all of that, we're not talking about in a toxic way. We're not talking about...
Don't be a crutch.
Yeah, you have to be...
Enabler.
Yeah, an enabler or a superwoman or anything like that.
Or Superman.
Or...
I got your back. We up in here
or
too.
a Superman. I'm not talking about that you have to break yourself down to build someone up. I'm talking about if you are not willing to sacrifice for your spouse, or you're not willing to have grace for the places they have weakness, if you're not willing to understand you're not 100% perfect. And so, like putting those shoulds on your partner is unfair.
Yeah, before you point out my twig, make sure you check your branch. That's all I'm saying. That's what Jesus said.
You guys can't see me on podcast land, but there was a hard side eye. A hard side eye. Okay, so we've gotten to the point where I ask, how you feel? How you feel? What do you feel like is a misconception about marriage? Which ones did we leave off? Tell us. Tell me.
Yeah, give us that feedback, y'all. We only did 10. We're pretty sure there's more.
Right. Yeah, so we learned that Chinese food is the one to go. And we learned...
That's a lie. We learned that too. Watching, you guys see that? It's slit. You got to watch it.
And we just learned about the 10 things that,
The 10 myths.
10 myths of a good marriage. Okay, so you know how to do that. You know how to tell me how you feel. Reach out to me on the podcast website, which is Unleashthaneesh.com. That's Unleash, THA, the niche.com. Or you can always email in at laugh@unleashthaneesh.com. So that's laugh at niche.com. Also, of course, join the Patreon. If you're not on the Patreon, you're missing out. There's exclusive content over there that I make, Dre and I make. One thing I do want to do once this next Married at First Sight comes out is do a review show. That will be solely on the Patreon. So join the Niche Gang over on the Patreon. Come on.
Gang.
Gang. High five. We did that. Also watch out because the next episode that'll be dropping will be the 10 myths about single life.
Yeah. All the single ladies.
And all the single
fellas, too.
Yeah, so watch out for that because that one's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be kind of a counter to this one. So I'm really excited for that. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe we can impact the world or something. I'll leave you with that. Bye.
Bye.